Compost and cotton and cornrows.
Who've been working on this weaving, knitting, crocheting, sewing techniques for multiple generations within their families. Because I knew that if the quality wasn't there, I didn't want to have the brand. It's like, what's the point of making more poorly made clothing? The world has enough of that.
It's not just me taking a pretty picture of a sunflower, but this is the reason why I'm diving deeper into the roots. And all of that is connecting through my ancestors, connecting through nature, connecting through the cycle of life in general within Black liberation.
Historically and presently has really benefited so much from the African people and the diaspora spread throughout the entire world. The cotton industry and the textile industry was fully dependent on the labor of our ancestors, right? Cotton was such a big commodity that provided, the United States with this foundational wealth that allowed for it to be this global imperial, superpower that it is now, but there is no...
Have two of the largest schools for the visually impaired here. And I was just thinking about, okay, so clothes look this way. Fashion is my passion. How will it apply for visually impaired people? How do they go about dressing? How do they go about shopping? How do they go about expressing values we express with clothing? And that's how I came up.
We are suffering under this colonialism, capitalist kind of mentality that was forced upon us, and that dealt our environment and our people a terrible blow. But then we also replicate it in our one-to-one relationships, in our relationship to nature. So it's all very much connected.
The South and cotton farms and cotton fields have been demonized so much that we forgot how beautiful they are in actuality. And, if you ever come to a cotton farm and hang out in the fields, you would be like, dang, this is really beautiful. I can see why Black people would want to be out here.
And I do think that the midwifery model of care, specifically Black midwives caring for Black women, is dismantling that. If we continue to show up, create and be innovative in the models of care that we create, continue to consider how people can access our care, then we really are undoing the experience of oppression that folks are going through within the medical system. And I hope that we will continue to see the impact of that for generations to come.
Also, the way Jeremy and I appear as a man and a woman in this space. I am married to a woman, so I am queer essentially, and he's married to a woman as well. And so I think us showing that men and women can work together, and it's not necessarily just a woman-owned powered business, but it's also a very strong Black man-owned business is another thing as well. And a Black man-owned business that is not harming the neighborhood. We can be a strong Black woman and a Black man, and we don't have to be married, right? We could be two strong families dedicated to community and dedicated to ourselves.
For our future, we envision owning the middle ground of this ecosystem for textile to cotton, and having that connection to collective designers and to our farm spaces. For us, that means a milling facility in the Southeast, which we are actively working on now in North Carolina. That milling facility would do spinning and material making, and we're already connected with great partners like the Black Fiber Textile Network, who is already global, connecting Black textile artists. We want to be able to be that Black material maker, bringing in all Black cotton farmers from not only from Africa, but across the Southeast.
And we need to be really mindful of not allowing the descendants of the architects of the problem to claim that they have the solutions. We need to be the ones driving the solutions, but we need to be healed enough to want to be a part of that agribusiness, want to be a part of that green future, want to be a part of those just transitions, to then say, I actually don't want a seat at the table. I want to lead the agenda because you all are not qualified to do so. But we have ancestral wisdom that qualifies us to not only set the agenda, but to be drivers of this conversation.
It's also important for us to decide that we can slow down. We can experience the transformative, and teaching ourselves and our community to release that pressure to conform to these traditional standards that perpetuate this rush and this capitalist society, because we don't need any of that. One of the most profound lessons for me on the road was that I don't need a lot to be.
I feel like there's this big push on prevention, right? And everything is like selling to a problem. And sometimes you're like, I didn't even know I had that problem.
Right.
Or you're like, wait, I have had that problem and this was helping it, but now this says it's going to help it. I think that we need to go back to the basics of one, understand the ingredients that you're using on your skin, but also just like taking time to test.
Composting cotton and cornrows.
We've turned nothing to gold since the birth of our soul. It's ingrained in our root. Black is more than flesh and bone, planted deep in our code, and we bear the fruit. Yeah, they wonder how our stride's so bold, and our pride stone cold after all we've been through. Rich as the texture of our crown. We pass it on to the youth.